Hey everybody, Cinis here. Before I get into this new Awoken speedrunning world record, I'd like to say I have made myself a Discord now, link is in the description. It has a speedrunning guide that I've been working on that is still incomplete, but will eventually be very in-depth and cover almost every strategy you've seen on this channel and a couple others as well. And links in the description. I'm open for Q&A on that server and should be pretty active there. So you can talk with me and other viewers there. Really appreciate it if you joined. And with that, let's get into this run. It's optimization of the Awoken strat you've seen before in the last video. The previous world record was 835. It was then pushed down by Narninian, who got an 830 with a new series of optimizations that you're about to see here. So now that Awoken has been buffed in the previous patch that just came out, its first and second stage Rejuvenate Sentient now do a decent amount more damage. That makes a pretty big difference for this particular run. And I'm really happy to see that. I don't actually think Rejuvenate Sentient needs a particularly large buff, but that doesn't mean I won't appreciate one. And it makes it to the point where you can pretty much beat every boss in the game with nothing but restores at Covenant 0. No backline or even other cards is necessary, and I can skip pretty much everything I want with this. So you can see I've already pretty militantly been purging to the point where I spent every last coin in the second shop purging out cards. And so I've already gotten my deck pretty far down, removing most of my torches, but I still haven't removed any train steamers. So that's pretty much where we're at. And because I have a bunch of extra energy to use, I decided to place them out here. And much is the same in this run as it has been in previous runs, although because I know that this run is a lot more survivable, I can choose to not play restores when I otherwise might. You'll note also that I got Sap Tap, which is a very good artifact for this run. It lets me go very light on the card upgrades to restores, and it also lets me avoid taking draw at each boss, because it gives you an effective hand size of 6 once everything is restores. Because you draw 1 with the first restore play. That doesn't mean I have to go out of my way to find a dupe and get a 6th restore, but the dupe interaction is pretty quick after enter confirmation, so I'm not actually too broken up about that. And you can see that it now deals 40 damage as opposed to this previous 30. This is probably where the buff makes the biggest difference, because there are just so many fewer restores. That made no sense. So much less restoring I need to do to ensure the deaths of every non-boss unit, that I can just avoid playing them out entirely in some cases. And I won't do that much here because this was one of my first runs with the new balance, and I wasn't quite sure how much regen I would need with the new changes. And it was well I did that, because I, without playing the restores on the last turn, would have actually died. As it is, though, we did fine. So the precaution was good. You can see I'm prioritizing removal over all else, even things I used to prioritize, like spell upgrades. And I'm down to just 1 Train Steward, and this run is looking remarkably like the Urge to Purge run, except for the fact that I have Rejuvenate Sentient as opposed to Spikes. We've even got Dave the Train Steward, although he's not going to last very long. I purge him out pretty quickly. And I'm even able to take down the Wave of Doom in the Sycophants of Seraph fight just then. Which shows you how strong, in relative terms at least, this strategy is. Considering I am ignoring literally everything other than a particular subset of my starting cards, and I'm still mowing down the bosses like they are nothing. That's fight 5 down already, and we're not even that far into the run. So again, I've prioritized removal. This is my final removal, because now I'm going to transition to looking for a duplication, so that I can get my 6th restore to take full advantage of Sap Tap. And I would probably get a 6th restore anyway, but it would require me to take draw instead of energy, which would in turn require me to take a bunch of Ember Stones at the shop, which constrains my pathing and is just generally a bit slower than I would like. So I'm glad to see Sap Tap here, because the extra draw is just helpful. I will say, as a disadvantage of Sap Tap, that it screws up your keyboard playing at the very beginning. But with enough foresight and a bit of practice, I have done a couple other runs using Sap Tap. It's pretty easy to get around. You can see I start by playing card number 2 here. And now you can notice that I'm tending not to play as many restores, not my full hand every time, just because I know how much I can afford to at this point. I've got, especially for Fel, the thresholds down. And here's my duplicated restore. And this particular path of Sentient isn't actually changed. It was 60, it is still 60. But it was plenty good before, so no need to worry about that. I would like to complain that the Extinguish animations slow down my mash considerably. I'm playing cards as fast as I can here. But the Wiltling's extinguishing and dealing damage slows things down quite a bit. And they makes this fight a lot slower than it should be, especially compared to the Winged Conduit fights or the Purifiers on this floor. And it's just a simple matter of mashing through until we get to Neffel or Living Armor, neither of whom are a particularly big threat as long as you've got enough regen. Case in point, Living Armor loses half of his health before the actual combat phase starts, and then doesn't pose much of a threat from there. Don't need any rewards, and I know that going in. I'm not going to get anything better than 6 restores with this particular upgrade configuration. So with that, here's Tempering. Now this fight does get a little dicey with the 6 restore strat. On waves that spawn in multiple Shade Wings, I can only barely kill off the Light Wings. You'll see it here first. With the restore from regen procs, maybe that's not the case? I feel like it is. Yeah, here's the wave I'm thinking of, in which the 2 big frontliners mean I can only barely kill the Light Wings with my regen. And any more of those, including this Steel Wings here, go the same way. But again, I'm not really in any danger, and even if they had passed through, it would only be slow. Which just goes to show you how consistently fast this strat is, and why it's so good for all clans. This is the reason why it's last. And so there's the run. It's a pretty dang fast time, 7 minutes and 28 seconds real time, beating out poor Narninian by a full minute. Full credit to him for most of these optimizations, and I do think most of the difference is due to animation speed and then a little mechanics. He is also a very good speedrunner, and I encourage you to check him out. And if y'all enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe, join my Discord, all that jazz, and if you didn't, please comment down below with how I can improve. And regardless, have a good day. This has been Cinis.